with John Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FA Nation? John Impemba here with Keith Eister. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Game Day Playbook live show. It is Monday. We're kicking off a new week here. We got a 7-game main slate over on DraftKings to go over. Our guy Keith was on today's playbook. You can find that over on fantasyalarm.com right now. If you've been in our Discord, you've seen Keith in there today chatting you guys up, getting you all ready for today's main slate. We had some injury news come throughout the day. We got a lot to talk about. Keith, how you feeling about today's overall slate we got going on today?
Feel pretty good. Got a little bit of everything. Got some superstars in Jokic and SGA and Ant Edwards, and so all kinds of good stuff. We've got injury news that helps us get up to those guys. So pretty typical NBA slate. Feeling good about it.
Awesome. We do appreciate you guys tuning in. You want to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Free way to support the work we do here over at Fantasy Alarm. If you're not yet a member of the Fantasy Alarm family, we got our 7-day free trial still going on. You can go to fantasyalarm.com/win. Use promo code Let's Go. Gets that first month for less than $20. We also have our fantasy baseball draft guide and cheat sheet live on site for sale. If you are an all-pro member, you get that for free. Otherwise, you can buy those pieces individually to get you guys ready for your fantasy baseball drafts. It's crazy as it seems. We're only about a month out from the start of the fantasy baseball season. So get your draft guides here today. Clem popping in and mentioning already a lot of Utah out. There is a lot of Utah out. Got mentioned some of that value we may be able to get to here today. Cover of our live show, Keontae George. So we'll be talking some Utah for sure in their matchup against Portland. And then David saying, what's up? What's up to you, David? So you have any questions, throw them in the chat. Keith and I will pop them up and we'll talk to you about today's slate. We go position by position here. We break it down at all. And we go and build a lineup at the end of the show. Keontae George, he is my boy. We've had a lot of success with Keontae George this season. We'll keep it riding. So your top price guy overall, Nikola Jokic, just $12K. We got a couple of guys up over $10,000. SGA is 10.7. Cade is 10.5. You have Harden with no Kawhi and no Norm, I think, right? Norm out already.
Yep.
So we got a solo Harden here against Detroit at 97. We got Trae Young at 94. Edwards and Maxey, no Joel Embiid, rounding out the 9K range. Where are you looking to go if you're spending up at point guard today, Keith?
Yeah, all of them are great options. Obviously, Harden stands out a ton with no Kawhi and no Norm Powell. His usage rate without those two guys up around 37.8%, I believe it was. Just an absolutely ridiculous number. Mm-hmm. We know Harden adds a bunch of peripherals as well. So 9,700, too cheap for his role today. SGA at the top was just awesome in this matchup against Minnesota. Found something interesting when digging in a little bit on Minnesota without Gobert. They have the 22nd defensive rating over their last 3 games without Gobert. So the matchup is much better than it normally would be with Gobert in there. We know SGA loves to get to the rim. Should have an easier time doing that without Gobert. He proved that last night in the same matchup. So don't mind going up there. Nobody's playing him today. Low-owned tournament option for sure with a massive ceiling. Cade's been incredible as well. I'm struggling to get there. I prefer SGA just slightly because of the matchup with the Clippers for Cade. He's played outstanding. I wouldn't talk anybody out of playing him. I'm just not going there. Got to make some decisions up here at the top. Trae Young in a tough matchup. Don't mind him, though. He's been incredible. Has 35-plus points at 38 exactly, I believe, in 3 straight. And Edwards has been playing really well. Also, OKC is obviously a difficult matchup, but these two teams have actually matched up in 3. This will be the 3rd of their last 4 games. Yeah. And the Ants played really well in the last 2. So certainly don't mind that. But with the Harden spot, he's probably my first look in the mid-9s. Maxey is phenomenal without Embiid. Obviously, if he plays as well, he has an elite matchup against Chicago. So absolutely loaded up top here. I definitely think you want to get up to at least one of these guys.
Yeah, the Maxey no Embiid was kind of, especially against Chicago, given how poor defensively they've kind of been all season. No, Ayo Dosunmu is a pretty good defensive guard for them as well here. Maxey coming off 31 actual. It's kind of interesting because they did mention, that there was a possible injury with him going into the break, but 34 and 43 minutes in the 2 games out of it. Boston's a tough matchup for many, but he thrived in 43 minutes there against Brooklyn, so nothing really holding him back. And I agree with you. I think Harden and Max would be the 2 clear-cut options if you want to go SGA or Cade, again, that's fine spending all the way up, but there are obviously other matchups and players that we can't spend up for. When we did the preview show this morning, we were really in on Tyrese Halliburton, the $8,000 price tag here for him going up against Denver. The Pacers are at home. Halliburton finally starting to shoot more, 18, 17, 14 shot attempts. More importantly, making those shots, 4 of 8 from 3, 4 of 11, and 4 of 8 from 3. We know the assists are always going to be there, but if scoring follows suit, we see what the ceiling can be. 57 fantasy points the other night against the Clippers. Where are you with Tyrese Halliburton this evening?
Yeah, I'm in on Halliburton. Love the game environment. 2 top 7 teams in pace. Big total here. Halliburton's been inconsistent, but you cannot deny the ceiling here. I'm not getting to as much of him as I would like because Tyler Hero, just above him, has been playing incredible basketball. Ever since Jimmy Butler left the team, Hero's just been absolutely balling out. Gets an awesome matchup here against Atlanta, who's the fastest team in the NBA. They're below average defensively, so great spot for Tyler Hero. It is worth mentioning Dyson Daniels on the other side. I assume he draws the Hero assignment, so the individual matchup is not great, but the overall team matchup is outstanding.
Yeah, I agree with you. The scoring for Hero, like you said, has kind of been off the charts here, filling up the stat sheet just in general. So with you, sort of a really good range as the top half here. You want to go a little bit further down. Any interest in Murray, the other side of that Halliburton matchup, Poole, Giddey. We have Simons, and then again, we have George and Collier. George, cover of today's live stream. How much Utah is too much Utah today when it comes to building your lineups?
Yeah, I mean, several guys are stepping into way bigger opportunity than we're used to with basically Utah's top 5 rotation players out. Keontae George has been awesome since moving to the bench role. He's still playing 30-plus minutes every night. The usage rate without the 5 players that are out tonight is up around 31% for him on the season. He's just way too cheap for this role. You can say the same about Isaiah Collier, his teammate right below him. His assist rate gets a big bump. His usage rate gets a bump. He's been playing great as well since stepping into the starting lineup. So I like both of the Utah guards. And there's more Utah pieces we'll discuss, but either of those guys are totally fine. I can't even say that I have a preference. I think George probably has a slightly higher ceiling.
Sure.
And you have to feel good with what you've seen with 30 minutes off the bench.
Yeah, for sure. If you're working your way into the value tier, again, I like this Brooklyn side against Washington. I think many would look to attack Washington kind of in general. I do think Keon Johnson's interesting, again, as long as we continue to have no D'Angelo Russell in the lineup. Got the 30 minutes we wanted the other day, even with some foul trouble. Where are you looking to go as we run down the 5K range?
We skipped over Josh Giddey. I just want to shout him out real quick, and then we'll get to his teammate in just a second here. But Giddey was awesome last night, or 2 nights ago, I guess it was. 2 games in a row now, he's found a ceiling. We know there's opportunity on this Bulls team since Zach LaVine has been traded. Right now, Josh Giddey is the one that has kind of been running with that. So I think he's still a little bit underpriced. If he's going to continue to shoot as well as he has, we know he's going to get rebounds and assists. So Giddey, a guy I wanted to throw out there. I really like.
I like Giddey a lot. Again, having no Io obviously helps kind of solidify some of those minutes because there were times where, and probably no Pat Williams as well. There were times where he was kind of coming off the floor due to his poor defense, but they don't really have the rotation to take him off the floor anymore. So he's just out there for the 35 plus given their injury. So good shout there on Giddey for sure. What about the rest of this point guard position?
Yeah, Lonzo Ball down at 5K, I think is interesting. We've seen him play 28 and 29 minutes in the last 2, so feel pretty good about the role. I like the matchup against Philly. There's definitely some risk there with Lonzo. He was atrocious his last time out. He was pretty good the time before that, though. I think there's ceiling here. Like I mentioned, there's opportunity available on this Bulls team. There's shots to be had, and nobody seems to be running with it at this point. Lonzo's never been a high usage guy, but he adds assists. He adds the defensive stuff as well. So at his price tag, I'm interested there. Keon Johnson, the only other name I really have slight interest in. That's not true. There's one other guy I want to talk about too, but like the matchup for Johnson, he's been in a bigger role here without D'Angelo Russell, and Cam Thomas is still out as well. Chris Dunn was the other name with Norman Powell and Kawhi Leonard out. That's like 27, 28% usage guys. Chris Dunn, never a usage guy. He has found a ceiling recently. It's been through steals and blocks, and he can do that. And if he can find a little bit of additional usage, and he's not going to take 20 shots. That's off the table. But if we can get like 10 shots out of him and he can be efficient with that, and then he adds the steals and the blocks, and he'll get a couple rebounds and a couple assists as well. I don't mind Chris Dunn at all. He's not a player we typically look at for ceiling.
Yeah.
But if you add a couple of shots into what I think could be 30-plus minutes in this role tonight, I don't hate Chris Dunn as a value option.
Yeah, no, I don't mind that. Again, a good defensive player can kind of fill out the stat sheet a little bit there as well. Shooting guard. Again, you mentioned Edwards already. We kind of skimmed through Murray at 77. A lot of these guys with dual positional eligibility, a lot of guys out in this tier as well on the top. Was there one or two top guys at shooting guard you are looking at?
I like Ant for the ceiling. Again, he's performed fine in that Oklahoma City matchup. Jamal Murray's been incredible also. I'm not getting there today. It's too strong of a position. You include the point guard eligibility as well. Dyson Daniels has been just playing awesome recently. He's leading the league in steals. The scoring has ticked up ever since Jalen Johnson's injury. He's still too cheap for what his role is. Not the best matchup against Miami, but he's going to be out there for mid-30s minutes, and the usages look pretty good here recently. Anthony Simon's a guy I always like to play for ceiling. This Utah team is just depleted tonight, and Simons can go off against anybody. Love this matchup for him. Quentin Grimes has been playing just ridiculous minutes since coming over to Philly. We have Joel Embiid out, so he should have some usage available. Yeah. If Maxey ends up getting ruled out as well, Grimes becomes like one of the top plays on the entire slate.
Yeah, Grimes and Oubre. Oubre, from what I've seen, is like one of the top 3 overall rostered players today. We've seen him obviously have some pretty high ceilings this year when there's no George and Embiid. George is taking a little bit of a step backwards, but the minutes are pretty legit for Kelly Oubre at this price point. I'd be fine. The other day I stacked some Philly. I'd have no problem kind of going even with a Maxey, Grimes, Oubre stack. Chicago's so bad defensively. They pay at a high pace. I think all 3 of those guys, and we'll talk about Yabu like when we get the center too. Like I think all those guys could have big games this evening going up against Chicago.
Yeah, don't mind that at all.
Working our way down a little bit. You did have Tamani Kamara explode the last couple of games there. We had the question, working our way down. I thought this said Sharp, not Shannon. You like anything else on Portland, I guess, as we work our way through?
I like the Kamara shout out. I do say with caution, he has been 7 of 10 from 3 in his last 2 games. That's not going to continue, obviously, but the minutes have looked really good. Even with Jeremy Grant back in the lineup 2 games ago, he played 37 minutes. So there's still a role here. Blowout last game cost him a few minutes, but still feel like he can get into the mid-30s. There's a ceiling there, even if he doesn't shoot 70% from 3.
Yeah, agreed. Any values for you?
It's really the 5K range is so strong. I'm not finding myself digging any deeper here at this position. Shannon is just so low per minute, and there's no guarantee he's even going to play more than like 22, 24 minutes, even if he does start.
Agreed. Small forward. Jalen Williams, $7,800. Again, you have Paul George, who is getting some ownership today at 71. Thoughts on spending up here, or do you have a core play at small forward for us today?
I like Jalen Williams a lot. No Chet Holmgren, obviously. Talked about the Minnesota matchup being easier than it typically is as well. So don't mind spending up. Paul George, I don't know if I can do it. He has been just awful for a month running, and he's been inconsistent all season. But at least he started to show some flashes there back around the beginning of January. But his last month, just looking through the box scores, the game logs, it's been really bad. I probably need Maxey out to consider Paul George, especially at the ownership that he's showing. If Maxey is out, then it becomes a little bit different conversation because you're taking 35% usage off the floor. George could find a massive ceiling there. He's fine. If you want to chase it today, it's an awesome matchup against Chicago, and theoretically he's underpriced for what we know Paul George can do. We just haven't seen it in a really long time. So I'm a little bit conflicted on Paul George today. Andrew Wiggins, I think, is the more consistent option. Seemed to really find his groove here with Atlanta recently, or with Miami rather. Has the awesome matchup against Atlanta. I believe Daniels will be on Hero. That should open up Wiggins. And if Hero's locked
minutes
up,
have been great.
Yes, minutes have been great. Shot attempts have been pretty good as well. He's got 20 points in both of his last 2 games, at least 20 points. So I like Wiggins quite a bit today.
Yeah, we're in on Wiggins, $6,500. Again, Jovic also broke his hand. Takes out another guy sort of in that rotation. Not that Wiggins was coming off the floor at all, but just another spot there for him. McDaniels is 66. The price is certainly coming up on him. Solid game. He's just been really solid. He's not giving you a ton of ceiling because of the price right now, but you're going to get 38, 36, 37 fantasy points at 6,600. So, a pretty safe floor there. I really like Cam Johnson today. Played him a bunch the other day, 35 minutes. He's still only 6,400. And we just know how bad Washington is defensively.
Love the Cam Johnson call. He's been kind of limited on the minutes because he was coming off that injury. So really nice to see him up in the 35 range last game. Seems like the restriction is fully removed at this point. He should lead the team in usage. I mean, no D'Angelo Russell, no Cam Thomas. He's probably the top scorer here.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%. Denny was on pace to smash the other day. Then that blowout happened. You got him in this range. We have Middleton returning to the lineup. Also Thompson, $600, who had a big game in just 17 minutes due to foul trouble the other night. What are your thoughts on the rest of the small forward group?
Yeah, I like Denny a good amount. We talked about that matchup against Utah and how shorthanded they are. He still found minutes 2 games ago with Grant on the floor. So I think 30-plus minutes is in the range of outcomes here. Talked about Kamara already. I'm not really looking at the kind of secondary, tertiary Denver guys and MPJ and Brown with them back kind of fully healthy now.
Yeah.
See if I like anything a little bit more in this 5 to high 4Ks before we get to one guy that I certainly have my eye on. Mathurin is fine. I don't mind the matchup. Denver's played at a really fast pace, 5th overall in the NBA this season, which is surprising. They played really slow the last couple of years. So again, a game environment I'm trying to get into. But it's another Utah piece that I'm really looking at. It's Bryce Sensabaugh. He just never plays the minutes that we want him to. And sometimes he's really low usage. But in looking at the on-off stuff with the 5 guys that are out tonight, Bryce Sensabaugh this season has received the highest usage bump on Utah. 7% usage bump for Bryce Sensabaugh. He's probably only playing 26 to 28 minutes. You hope for 30, 32, but he hasn't done it yet this season. If he's ever going to do it, this seems like the spot that he could do it. He's really cheap. He should be stepping into a much larger role. And the numbers with the on-off stuff is what really has me intrigued if he can see 7% more usage. Yeah,
earlier this season, he went on like a 3-game stretch or whatever where he was just knocking down shots left and right. Gotta love seeing 15 shot attempts in 24 minutes against Houston there. So if we can even just get 15 shot attempts in whatever playing time he gets tonight, it's going to give us an opportunity to get some points. As Power is saying here, Alexander Sarr ruled out again for Washington. So you'll get the Rashawn Holmes start this evening, adding some more value to the center spot. I think Richeche is fine. 4,500 again, a little bit of a tougher spot against Miami overall. Again, they could very well start Svi at 4K, depending where they go. Amir Coffey probably starts. Any other interest of small forward?
Svi is one that has me intrigued. We're talking super large field tournament. He's been starting and has been really, really low per minute while he's been in the starting lineup, but he's been playing with high usage guys like Markkanen, who is out tonight.
And Collins, all that crew,
Collins, So with everybody out, maybe Svi takes on a larger role. We talked about Sensabaugh. Like a ton of people are playing Sensabaugh. No one is playing Svi. If Svi is the guy who gets the big usage bump tonight, like you're passing a ton of the field that has Sensabaugh. So I probably wouldn't play those 2 guys together. We talked about being fine loading up on Utah, and I am with the right guys. But in a situation like this, where you're kind of making an assumption that X amount of usage goes to Y player, you want to kind of have your outs there to hit a ceiling on the guy. And I think Svi and Sensabaugh's ceilings are kind of negatively correlated. So I probably wouldn't play them together.
Yeah, I mean, we said we've gotten a couple of high 20 fantasy point gains when he's been extended this year. It's more so just hit your shots, right? Like 4 of 12, 2 of 9, 3 of 8, 2 of 9. If he's pretty much only taking threes. If some of those turn into 4 of 8s, all of a sudden you're up over 20 fantasy points at $4,000 there. So any other small forwards for you this evening?
I think that covers it.
Cool. Power forward we go then. Bam is 83 with that dual positional eligibility, as is Naz Reid at 79. We mentioned Jalen Williams at small forward. We got Pascal Siakam at $7,600. Thoughts on the top 4 there at power forward tonight?
Yeah, Bam has not found a ceiling all that often because Tyler Hero's been going nuts. We talked about Hero having a little bit tougher, probably the toughest matchup on the team. Maybe somebody like Bam is the guy who steps up and has a big game. The matchup is phenomenal, so I certainly don't mind getting up to Bam. Naz Reid has been just absolutely smashing. He's playing a ton of minutes. Ever since Julius Randle went out, he's just been been going crazy. The price continues to come up, but it's probably still not high enough. Tough matchup against OKC, but he's going to be out there for mid-30s minutes at least. Siakam is interesting. Looked like he was starting to get more aggressive this season, back about a week before the All-Star break. The usage had really started to tick up. Was in like the 26% range for 8 straight games. And then his last 2 games, he's back down around 22-23% usage. So I'm conflicted on Siakam. I like the spot for him. I talked about the pace Denver's been playing with. If you told me he's going to have 26% usage, I'd be very much in on Siakam. We need to see that aggressiveness out of him. But I love the game environment, so I will take shots tonight.
I agree. Guys, we've kind of already touched on. You have Cam Johnson. You can play him here at $6,400. Denny as well. I really liked Aaron Gordon at 53. I think as long as his price keeps staying in this like low 5K range and he's going to start playing over 30 minutes. I mean, 30 and 37 fantasy points the last 2 games, 5,300. That's over 6x return. Really good matchup again against Indiana today. I think Gordon for me is one of my favorite locks.
I don't know if I would call him a lock, but I'm with you in the interest. We've seen him be inconsistent a little bit. He's been much better recently, and maybe he was just struggling coming back from the injury, and it took him a little bit to get integrated, and that's why his price has stayed so low for so long. Because you're right, we are used to seeing him up around 6K or even above sometimes. So I do agree with you. He is a little bit too cheap here tonight.
And I think you look at it too, also, just sort of since he's come back, Denver's ran through teams. So you see 23, 24 minutes, 24, 28, 27. He's really been over a fantasy point per minute guy lately in some of these matchups here when he's been extended. He had the 31 fantasy points in 34 minutes, missed some time, came back. But since coming back, the last 2 games, they didn't limit it at all, right? 32 and 35 minutes, the 2 games there after the All-Star break. So I don't know. I like him at $5,300. I can get some hesitation, obviously, because we've seen these guys at times be pretty inconsistent, especially when Jokic just goes and dominates. Nobody else really can contribute much, but
and Murray's been going off here recently too. But
exactly.
Like you said, the minutes are the key thing with Gordon, and we've seen him at 32 plus the last 2. So I'm totally with you. He's a little bit too cheap here.
Sure. To Toby also, I think fits at 6,100. Now knowing Clippers are no Kawhi on that side either. Like I guess Derek Jones Jr. will be the guy defending him in this one, but 61 for Toby feels pretty good.
Don't mind that. The matchup is easier, like you said. I do think there's some better options cheaper down in that Gordon range. Jeremy Grant, a guy that I'm really looking at. 30 minutes in each of his last 2 games, 29 and 30, was terrible in the first game back from the break, was really pretty decent in his last one. Grant has not been a high usage guy this season. He's been around like 20% all season long, where we typically see him up around 23, 24.
Sure.
But the price tag is kind of adjusted to that now. If we're going to see 30 minutes out of him in this elite matchup, I have a lot of interest in Jeremy Grant.
I love the 9 rebounds. Like there used to be a time where Jeremy Grant gave you the peripheral stats, right? And then all of a sudden he kind of just stopped. We can go back to that. I mean, the steals you mentioned are elite, getting defensive numbers. Let's start giving us like 5 or 6 rebounds as a power forward here and, start helping us with your fantasy bottom line. Again, Yabu, power forward, center eligibility, Bazulis, power forward eligibility. I think both guys in that opposite matchups are fine here. Grande really liked Trendon Watford. He mentioned, I guess, that the Nets head coach mentioned liking Watford as a facilitator of their offense, and he goes on and gets 6 assists. 24, 21, 24 minutes. So the minutes are kind of in that mid-20s range. Are you in on Watford in this matchup?
I am in on Watford. There's a couple of things that are contributing to this. Obviously, their 2 guards are out in Russell and Thomas. And then Noah Clowney is out as well. So the minutes floor feels pretty secure here for Trendon Watford. Brooklyn's just shorthanded. Watford's played really well. The 6 assists that Grande caught on to is a nice little bonus, but I was interested just because of the minutes and the role here at the price tag. He's been a solid per minute producer his entire career. So if he's going to play low 20s, mid 20s minutes with potential, I'm in on Watford for sure. I like Yabusele as well. The matchup against Chicago is elite. Obviously, they've allowed the most points in the paint this season. We've seen him smash multiple times this season without Embiid. So I like that shout out as well.
Yeah, I 100%. And again, I'll take anybody really playing in Chicago, given how poorly they play here. Again, you have Derek Jones Jr. could be in for more minutes with their rotation here. Ricochet, Niang's 43. You talked about Sensabaugh. KJ Martin got a start the other day, played 29 minutes, could very well start again today, given who's out. Would you play some KJ Martin this evening?
I don't mind it. I think I prefer Sensabaugh for a little bit more, who has power forward eligibility as well.
Sure.
Niang has, I mean, he just went nuts in the last game. That's 2 times he's had ceiling games here. So if you want to chase Georges Niang, I don't hate that. I don't know if this role is sticky, but it's a new role for sure. So you can't just think of the same low per minute guy that we saw in Cleveland. It's a new role, so maybe this is real. If you want to continue to ride the Niang train, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, no, listen, I mean, he's always been a good offensive player. You go back to his Philly days, right? He's been a guy that's been able to kind of pop in and score. Getting a more of an opportunity, you take him out of Cleveland where he's competing with Mobley, Garland, Mitchell, that whole crew. And really, you look at Atlanta, and for offense, it's Trae Young, Daniels a little bit, but he has freedom to shoot, here, and they're giving him the basketball. So I've always been a Niang guy. I'm looking around my desk. I got a Georges Niang autograph card somewhere around my desk here, but I can't find it at the moment. Anyways, so we got that going on for us. Any other power forwards?
We talked about Martin. Nope, I think that does it.
All righty. Let's go to center then, where Nikola Jokic is back down to 12K. They had his price going up. He's had a couple of games here. One for 71 against Charlotte, and then the Lakers game, they just kind of blitzed him there, and he had a still triple-double, but only 46 fantasy points. 12K has kind of been an easy play here. Do we think that this works for tonight's builds?
It does work. The Utah value that we've talked about, a couple cheap pieces, other cheap pieces we talked about, like Watford, the Chicago, Alonzo Ball. You can definitely make Jokic work. The matchup is incredible. I mentioned this is a really fast-paced game. Both teams play top 7 in the NBA. There's not really anything bad to say about him. Indiana allows a ton of points in the paint as well. I believe they're 4th highest points in the paint. So like everything is screaming Jokic smash in this spot. Should have a few extra possessions with the pace of the game. I think I really want to try to get up to him as much as possible.
Where are we looking to go down from Jokic here? Do you like Zubac now, knowing that they're down Kawhi and Norm?
I do. Zubac's a guy I've actually played quite a bit this season. I think the recent trends were going in the wrong direction for him. But now we have Kawhi out. We have Norm Powell out. We also have Ben Simmons out. And I think for Zubac, that's the big key. Just because they've been messing with the rotation a little bit. So where early in the season, we saw Zubac getting basically 32 minutes every night. We've seen a few 24s, 28s here recently. That's a little bit concerning when you're targeting a guy for a ceiling in a GPP.
Right.
Without Simmons here tonight, I feel like that 32 minutes is right back in play for Zubac. I like the spot for him a good amount. He could see a little bit extra usage with no Norm and no Kawhi as well. So yeah. I am in there. I
agree. And Duren, been a good player lately. Not really always a great defender. Jokic is probable. You do have Duren here. I mean, the assist numbers just continue to kind of blow us away. They told us this was happening. They said, we want him to run the offense a bit more. 7, 6, 5, 5, 5, and 6 assists. Yet if you go to Underdog today, his prop is sitting at 3.5 assists at a 1.1x multiplier. So they're still not believing in the assist numbers here. Do you like some Jalen Duren in this spot?
I'm probably leaning towards the underdog side of this, and that I'm just not sure I'm believing it. But okay. maybe I'm just being too slow to react here. He should be out there plenty with Zubac on the other side. He's shown ceiling here recently.
Yeah,
it's hard to find a negative, especially looking like the ceiling has been up over 50 fantasy points here recently. So I currently don't have him. Maybe I dig into that a little bit deeper, but not a guy I had my eye on before the show.
All right. A lot of red here. A lot of guys ruled out. Obviously, there's some potential value at center spot. Where else are we looking to go for you tonight?
I think going down, you want to look at Nick Claxton. The matchup against Washington is incredible. He's been playing big minutes, and without the high usage guys being inactive, he's really taken on a significant role in the offense. So we know he's going to get the rebounds if he's scoring a bunch of points as well. This is too cheap of a price for him, especially given the matchup.
Yeah, his rebound and assist number today is 10.5. He's basically on that with just rebounds, and he started to, again, by happenstance, 3, 4, and 3 assists the last couple of games. So I kind of hit that one today too, thinking that there could be some value there, especially in this spot. We did have a mention, you have Klingon here. Rob Williams is out already. And then we had Jabari Walker play big minutes in that blowout. What side of the Portland Center are you on tonight?
Yeah, Klingon is really interesting. He should be able to do whatever he wants inside against this Utah team. No Walker Kessler, no John Collins. Filipowski's going to slow this guy down. The size difference there, the girth difference at least, is absolutely massive. That being said, can Klingon stay on the floor to follow Filipowski around the perimeter?
Right.
We always get into these conversations when we see matchups like this. It's two very different styles of play from the two guys we expect to see the majority of the minutes at 5. How that plays out is to be determined. But again, I think Klingon's ceiling here is really high if he's able to stay on the floor.
Yeah, he's been able to play big minutes. One game, it was against Denver. He played 31 minutes, had 52 fantasy points. But the Lakers went small, took him off the floor. Charlotte, the blowout game, he didn't need to stay on the floor. Only 20 minutes there. So give or take what you want there. We mentioned Yabu. Yeah, Rashawn Holmes going to be on the other side of that matchup. Probably going to play 30 minutes tonight without Sarr.
Yeah, he's definitely going to see significant minutes here. 30 might be pushing it for me. I'd probably have him 26, 28. It's a fine matchup though against Brooklyn. He's in play for sure.
Okay. Any other centers for you?
Yeah, I talked about Filipowski in the matchup, but I'm interested in playing him too for the offense. He last time that both Collins and Kessler were out, he played 37 minutes in a game against the Clippers. He scored 34 fantasy points. So it might be chasing a little bit. I don't know if I'd expect 34 out of him, but he should have a significant role here against Portland.
Cool. Anybody else that you want to talk about at center?
I believe that covers it.
All right, let's build a lineup then. What's your number one plug for today? Is it the Utah guys?
Yeah, definitely. Whichever point guard you prefer, I basically view them the same. I would say George has the higher ceiling, but I like Collier just as much probably.
Yeah, I like George. Let's see. Do you go like Grimes here? Probably get a little value.
Yeah, it seems like a really solid value. He's going to be out there for mid-30s minutes for sure.
6, so 63. What do we want to spend up? Who's our number one spend today? Is it Harden?
Harden's definitely in there, yes. Okay. And then do we want to try to get Jokic and Harden together? That might be tough.
We did that. We've 4K, so we'd have to cut someone down because we do have some value. Obviously, like we have. Sensabaugh, which you like, it's small forward.
Kevin Huerter's a really cheap guy that we didn't talk about that I don't mind.
Great shout because we mentioned him on the preview show late because I kind of forgot that he was there, but he played a whole bunch of minutes.
30 minutes as a 6-man, really carving out a nice role. I mentioned that Chicago just doesn't have any scorers or nobody that's seemed to be willing to take the ball and score. Right. Huerter's the guy that can shoot the lights out if he gets hot. So I don't mind tournament shots there.
What was Niang here? Niang was power forward. We did Sensabaugh here. And small forward. It gives us a $4,100 for it. So we're definitely going a little stars and scrubby, but I mean, Svi is there. I opened the show asking you how many Utah would you play? George, Sensabaugh, Svi? Would you be interested in something like that?
It's the Sensabaugh Svi thing that has me conflicted is because I feel like one of them does really well here and the other really struggles.
Yeah. You have KJ Martin, who's 39 again. He started the other day.
I'd be more likely to go that route just because I think he has a different path to get there than Sensabaugh does, and that's rebounding.
Sure. All right. Well, let's go down to Collier then. Let's see what we do. If we go to Collier, that gives us a couple more $100 to play with. 44. Was there anything different at 4,400? Gives us Jabari if we think they go small. I think he's gonna. I think they basically split the first half minutes. He played 11, Klingon played 13, and then the blowout happened. Would you take a shot on Jabari Walker here?
I don't mind that. I think I would prefer the George. I'm losing the name now. The other forward for Utah that we talked about.
Martin?
Yeah, I think I'd prefer George Martin over that combo. Man, we're 100 short of Chris Dunn. That would be really nice.
I know. All right, so we'll do this then. This is obviously a double spend. Coach Chris saying play Neesmith there. The production for Neesmith's been kind of crappy, hasn't it? Been better lately.
Yeah, not a guy that was on my radar today.
Last 2 games been hitting his shots. He got to hit his shots, right? I guess that's the tale there. It is the right environment if there was a spot for it. But here we go. Stars and scrub build. Let's see, can we do anything different? I mean, I really like Grimes. I don't think there'd be much different here. Like you'd play quarter at shooting guard, be a 58 util. I like this matchup against Chicago. I don't think I'd switch too much off of that. Yeah, there's nothing there. All right, so we'll go George, Grimes, Sensabaugh, Niang, Jokic, Harden, Martin, and Horder. Pay attention to who is starting for Utah. Rearrange your starting lineups if you can to make sure you have sort of the late swap availability as well for Utah. But other than that, guys, again, 7-game main slate. Make sure you get in that Discord. Go find Keith and I in there to get you ready for the Monday slate starting at 7 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be back tomorrow. Preview show tonight, live stream at 5. Until then, everybody, good luck, and we'll catch you later.